Morning. Now, today's one of those days when I've pretty much got no time to practice. I've got so many jobs I've got to do before heading out for the weekend to go down to a friend's wedding. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to share with you some tips and tricks that I personally use to maximise my practice time when it doesn't look like there's going to be any. But I also know myself, and I know that there's no way I'm doing any good practice before breakfast, and most importantly, before some coffee. So I'll see you in a bit. Now, perhaps the most obvious of these little tips and tricks is simply to make the time for yourself. So today, for example, I've got so many jobs that need doing, invoices send off, planning to do. I've agreed to play tennis with some friends this morning, which in hindsight, perhaps I shouldn't have done. So to fit all that in and fit in practice, it's 7:25, and I'm already up, partway through breakfast, ready to go, which gives me a good hour of practice I'll be able to do before I have to get on and do other things. Now, given how early it is, and the fact there are people in this flat that are still asleep, obviously don't want to wake them up, so I'm going to have to do super quiet practice. And this is actually really useful for working on the diaphragm as well, because if I can play deathly quiet and still play in tune with a good sound, I've got to work this, and then when I can play loudly, my sound is going to be even better. Now, this is also a really good time to work on things like finger technique or any little technical exercises. So I'm going to do some really quiet practice now, and I'll give you a few more tips a little bit later on. Now, the next tip is wherever you're going and whenever you're going, always take your instrument with you. And this is something that personally I've kind of gone back and forth with a lot during my life. I'm always well aware that I want to make sure I'm enjoying the moment, right? We only live once. Friends and family are super important. I want to make sure I spend the time with them. But personally, I know that if I don't practice for a few days, I start to become not very nice to be around, right? So I get short-tempered just because I'm frustrated at my lack of productivity and my lack of progress on the instrument. And I also find that my playing really suffers if I'm not playing for a couple of days and not practicing. I mentioned in a previous video about jam sessions being quite hard to play at just because we don't really get the chance to warm up. And that gets worse if we haven't played or practiced for a few days. So even just 5 minutes here and there while I'm away is really going to help me keep my hand in on the instrument. And the other thing that's kind of made me settle on always taking the instrument with me is that if I don't take it, and there's, I don't know, half an hour I'm just waiting for everyone else, well, that'd be perfect practice time, but I don't have the instrument, so I can't do anything. And if I do take it, well, worst case scenario, I don't get a chance to play at all. And I've just carried it for however long the journey is for no real reason. And to me, that seems like a pretty fair trade-off. So whenever I'm going anywhere, whether that's visiting parents for a few days, a weekend away like this, I almost always now take the soprano saxophone with me. Soprano, just because it's the smallest, right? The little case fits on my back while I've still got a rucksack on, so it doesn't feel too much like a burden while I'm traveling. Also has the advantage that, to be honest, soprano is probably one of my favorite instruments ever, but I never really get a chance to play it. I don't really have any gigs on soprano ever, and although I write quite a lot of material for soprano, I haven't really ever performed it yet, and this gives me a good excuse to play it. So whenever you're going anywhere, make sure you take your instrument with you. On that note, I best be off, or I'm going to miss the train. Getaway for the weekend, and it's a bit moody at the moment, a bit dark and gloomy, but let's see if I can sort that out. Where's the light switch? Here we are, okay. So, dark and gloomy, then let there be light. Hey, lovely and homely. So let's see what we've got here. Nice little TV, little kitchen area, sort of right out. And is this? This is the most important shelf in any kitchen. Hot drinks. And have we got, is this what I think it is? Let's have a look. Fresh coffee. It's going to be a good weekend. Now I was told that there is a hot tub in the garden out there. Now I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's crazy windy and quite wet at the moment. But I do think when you've got the option of a hot tub, you've got to use it, right? Oh, so the girlfriend's working. She said my friends were meant to be coming, got COVID, so can't come. But I've never been in a hot tub before, so it's a perfect opportunity. And I gather it's meant to be a social thing, but when you've got the chance, just got to enjoy it by yourself. And yeah, this weekend is a nice celebration, right? 2 friends that I know very well getting married. You got to celebrate, right? You can still party when you're by yourself. Everyone's always pushed for time. It can be really hard to find the practice time because of that. Let's say you've got a full-time job, get home from work late, and well, it can feel like there's no time left to practice. But there's a few things we can do to make life a bit easier, because the practice time is always there if we put the effort in. So one's having like a regular schedule, so maybe if you do have a full-time job, you know that as soon as you get home from work, that is your practice time. Before you chilled out and had dinner and got into relaxing mode. Or maybe if you work from home, you can practice at lunchtime. And then after a few days of doing that, it becomes habit. And finding the time becomes a lot easier. Another option, which is what I'm doing now, is make sure if you've got 5-10 minutes free, make the most of that time. So everyone else is still getting ready. And if I can be ready before them, I have a tiny bit of practice time to make the most of before this wedding. And when you are doing that, it's really important to have super specific goals for your practice. So yesterday, my practice was largely technical, right? A lot of warm-ups, long-term exercises and finger exercises. And then today, I'm going to work on getting the last 8 bars of Embraceable You and getting those changes really under my fingers. Because it's a standard that I really like. And those 8 bars, not quite as comfortable for me at the moment. And having a goal means that even in a short space of time, I can really focus on it and make sure I'm improving. So as hoped, I'm ready first. Which means I've got probably about 10 minutes to fit in some practice. Obviously not as good as doing a full session, but if I'm still really focused, make the most of this time, and think about my specific goal, I can still have a really productive session. So it's time to go, but by being really focused with that goal I had in mind, getting those last 8 bars of changes a bit more comfortable, I'm feeling so much better about it. And because I have practiced, I still feel like I've been productive, and then next time I pick up the instrument tomorrow, I'm going to feel so much more at home from the get-go. So I hope this helps give you a few ideas about how you can fit more practice time in. Good luck with it, I'll see you next time.